Hi. Hi, how are you? I was thinking about practicing what I preach, and one of those things, of course, is the lead. The lead is everything, kids. So I thought maybe I would start off with a little song, maybe something to, engage you in this lesson. So if you don't mind, let's take a few minutes here and play a little song for you. Make sure I'm right here. All right, here we go. Okay, I'm not even playing. It's not me. I'm not playing. Hold on. I that's actually my favorite band. That's Tesla, my favorite rock band. Uh, I've had this thing for about 20 years, and I don't know if you can see it as a nice layer of dust right there. That's dust because it sits in the corner over here, and I look at it and I think I should really practice, and I don't practice. I should. I mean, I think I know maybe a couple chords. I can I can do that and kind of do that. That's about all I can do. I do have a Tesla pick though. I was talking about my band. There's my favorite band, Tesla. I've seen them with the sign on the back. I've seen them in concert. They're an 80s rock band. I've seen them 16 times, I think. Something like that. Anyway, good to see you. That was my engaging lead, which was a horrible lead. Sorry for that. But I'll put that away for another year. I have a knee update. I went to the physical therapist, and I'm allowed to walk without a crutch when I'm at home. So no more crutches. And I told my daughter Annie that, and she promptly wrote this little note for me about me not needing a crutch anymore. That's pretty funny. She's 9 years old. She's funny. Anyway, good to see you. Let's get this party started. You should have a supplement that's titled Beat Video Supplemental. That's not a very creative title, but we're going to work with it. And the goal with this is to walk through the beat project and then the need for angles based on your beat, what you should be getting right now, and then the observation form and what that looks like and my expectations for that. So that's the goal today, to really try to clarify a lot of this for you. And I like to do this in a video for the same reasons of my other video, that if you happen to miss class when I explain this, you're not there, then you're pretty lost. And also, this is a lot of talking, and that means that at times you will tune out, maybe look at a squirrel or something, or get distracted. And so this is a way for you to pause me when you need to and come back to me when you maybe have had a few drinks and feel like you can handle me again. All right, so if you would please, everything I need you to open will be in your files section on Canvas. So if you'll go there, and so you should have the Beat Video Supplemental pulled up. Then please go to Canvas and get the Beat Project Assignment. Pull that document up, please. I'm going to walk through a couple of the steps. And pause me if you need to, because I'm just going to keep talking. So at times you might just need to pause me while you get the documents. The main steps: you're choosing your beat. Again, officially, you should have that on Monday. And you are already on step 2, where you're researching your beat. You're learning about both nationally and locally what the context of what you are covering. And I list a bunch of different things that you should be researching on that document, and that you are trying to prove that your beat is relevant, useful, and interesting. All right. So you also are trying to establish what your story angles might be. You need 3 story angles, 3 of them. That is, oh shoot, yes. Sorry, I thought I just turned everything off. Yeah, you need 3 different angles based on your topic. So let's look at that beat video supplemental document, because I give an example for you here. Let's say my beat is the Miami University football team. I need 3 different aspects of that team that I want to cover, and I've chosen 3 of them. Lack of student interest, because the team is not good, and I'm also hypothesizing that part of it is also the drinking culture here that students have found other things to do on Saturday afternoons, and that one of those things, one of those big things, happens to be drinking. So that's one angle that I want to explore. Another angle about the football team is the recruiting process, and then once the players get here, the development of those players. Because if you don't have the players, you're not going to win. So I want to explore what Miami coaches do to recruit players, and then to try to develop them. And the third thing is marketing the team. What's the university doing to try to attract fans, both older fans, alumni, people who live in Oxford, and then students? What are the efforts, and are they working? So if you notice in those three angles, they go in order of a logical order. I'm identifying a problem or a situation. And the problem is there's a lack of student interest, really fan interest overall. I'm an alumnus. I've been to one game in the last 6 years, something like that. And I don't live that far away, so why am I not going? Um, so I might even change that to lack of fan interest. So that's the problem. That's a kind of a classic. That's a classic structural thing. Present an issue, a problem, and then the rest of the paper is looking at possible solutions or possible reasons why that problem exists. So I recommend you doing that with your beat too. What's the issue? What's the big deal? And then you're looking for reasons why it's a big deal and possible reasons of how to solve it if there needs to be something solved. So I start with the problem. There's a lack of interest, and then two things that are a reason for that are the players maybe aren't good enough, and then the school's not doing a good enough job to attract people. So those are my three angles. Then you are going to match up the people you want to talk to, the statistics that you want to share, and the observations to each of those three angles. So for Monday, I'm asking you to come up with statistics and people for each of those three angles, not just overall in general, but each tailored to those three angles. So if we start first with the experts or authority figures on this Beat Video supplemental document, if I'm going to talk about this lack of interest for fans or students angle, who should I talk to about that? I would talk to the athletic director. What is he seeing, and since he's taken over on fan interest and the lack of fans showing up, the lack of students especially showing up for the games. For the angle of recruiting and developing players, I would want to talk to the coaches who handle those responsibilities. If we have scouts that are going to high schools to watch players play, what are they doing to try to bring students in? And then for marketing the team, I'm going to talk to the athletic department staff members who handle those responsibilities. And that could be the athletic director again. You are allowed, absolutely allowed, to have the same person answer questions about more than just one angle. That's not cheating. That's just you found a person who can extrapolate on those particular angles. So that's okay. All right. Hope that makes sense so far. Then for statistics, you want to prove that this isn't just something that is only germane to Miami, that each of these angles is something that a lot of colleges have to think about. And so if you look at the next item on this Beat Video supplemental document, what stories or statistics will I use for each angle? So for a lack of student interest angle, there are millions of articles about the attendance at places like Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State or Nebraska. There are lots of articles about the lack of attendance at Miami. So I need to find one national one local one with statistics included that would help bolster this relevance. Same thing for the recruiting and developing players angle. I'm looking for stories about how schools go about trying to get players to come to their school. In some cases, in rather nefarious ways. The University of Louisville lost its basketball coach last year because of some of the things that were happening on that university. The third thing would be marketing the team. I even put a link for this one about different trends, different things that universities do, and the importance of marketing college sports teams to try to get people interested in those teams or those events on campus. So now I've proven that I know who I want to talk to. I know that I've got some context that I can share nationally and locally about each of those three angles. All right. Then I'm going to match the observations for each of the angles. I need to go out and officially observe something. For the lack of student interest, that's pretty easy. I'm gonna go to a game for at least part of the game and see how many students are at that game. What do the stands look like? I'm gonna take a picture of that, and then I'm gonna head uptown and see how many students are up there. What's it like at a bar, or just how many students are having lunch, or at Beat the Clock? And I'm gonna take a picture of that. So now I've got this photographic proof. I'm gonna take a little video of that, and I've got the details of what it looks like at the game and what it looks like elsewhere. For the recruiting and developing players angle, I want to watch a practice or a workout. I might go to the facility, that new facility that's by Jaeger, that looks pretty impressive. That I'm sure recruits come in when they bring in recruits, they take them there and show them what they're going to have to be able to work out and get better as an athlete. For marketing the team, I'll have to talk to the athletic department. I don't know what they do to market the team. Are there specific things they do on campus, maybe on Friday afternoons to remind students there's a game? Are they busy at their computers on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook? I don't know. So I'd have to talk with them to see. These notice that a couple of these at least aren't really, if really any of these aren't necessarily official events. These aren't come here at 5 o'clock for this. These are just things that I'm seeing as I'm going around campus that match all of those three angles. Okay? So I hope that makes sense in what I'm asking you to do in terms of getting organized of the information that you need to find. Let's go back to the Beat Project assignment document. Again, pause me if it takes you a minute to get back there. Number 2 is research your beat, so that's what you're doing. Number 3 is to talk to key people. This is where, now that you, Monday, turn in this list of people that you think you need to talk to. This is going to be a quick turnaround for me. I'm going to grade this fast. I'm going to read through what your beat is. I'm going to read through what your angles are. I'm going to read through your statistics. I'm going to read through the people you plan on talking to. I'm going to read through all that. And I'm going to give you very quick feedback on if I think you're on the right track, or if maybe there's something better that you could be doing with your beat. But you need to start reaching out to these stakeholders, especially the experts or authority figures. It's going to take you a while maybe to talk to the athletic director or somebody at Miami's administration. But once you get that list, now is the time to reach out to them. Number 4 is to observe your beat. And that's really the bulk of this video today, is going to be not me playing guitar, but looking at the observation form and what you need to do. So let's look at number 4 on the Beat Project assignment document. It says you're going to need to observe your beat, and you need to write down notes about what you see. Physical descriptions, type of people, the feel, the place, whatever you see. The more details you get, the better. We're going to be talking about details in the coming days, but you want to get a bunch of details because it's going to make us feel like the readers, the people reading your story, are there in the room or at that place with you. So number 4 says you have to observe, the first bulleted item, you have to observe 3 different events. Those are going to tie into each of those 3 angles, as bulleted item number 2 tells you. The third bulletin item says you're going to interview at minimum 3 different people for each of these observations / angles, minimum, which means 9 total people minimum. Not all of these people might make it into your story, and you might need to interview a bunch of folks who really not even for the purpose of quoting them in the story, but just for background contextual information, so you feel like you are fully starting to understand that particular angle. So that third bulleted item says that the people need to be different types of people in terms of age and gender and roles and connections. So I give an example. If your beat is Talawanda School District, and if you are covering a school levy, which is a vote on whether to spend money for the district, then you would want to interview an administrator, a teacher, a student, a parent, a voter who's voting for it, a voter who's voting against it. So there's there's 6 or 7 people right there, but you're trying to get information. Maybe you're trying to find the best quotes to use. So that's the goal there. The next bullet item says 2 pictures at each observation. You're going to write cut lines. We'll talk about cut lines, what those look like. We'll talk about photos and how to take good photos. This is not a photography class, but it's important for me that you at least get some photography with your observations. That's Scout the dog. So keep that in mind when you go observe. Please don't forget to take 2 pictures. You don't want them to look the same. You don't want them to have the same theme. We'll go into that in more detail. You're also going to record video, as that next bulleted item says. You'll turn that video in at the end of the project. So this is weeks and weeks and weeks away. Right now you're just getting at each observation, it says you're going to get about 20 seconds, because this video will be about a minute long. So not a minute for each observation, just about 20 seconds for each video. That little bulleted item within that video item says that you're going to write out a script at the end where you have an engaging lead. You've got a nut graph. We'll talk about what that is later. And you'll quote a source and end your video effectively. That's weeks and weeks away, so you don't need to worry about that. For now, just remember when you are at an observation that you record about 20 seconds worth of video. Again, doesn't need to be professional quality. The last bullet item talks about filling out a form, and that's going to help you write a story. So that's what I'm going to talk about now, what this form looks like and what it will turn into. So if you would, you're going to go into Files and you're going to open up a document titled Observation Form. Pause me if you need to, and then come back to it. The observation form walks you through what I'm expecting out of this. Because the better your observation form, the better your stories are going to be that you're eventually going to write about your beat. So let's. I'm gonna read through this. It's that important because I want to make sure you understand. I know you can read, but to me, both reading and hearing it will help you on the track to success. So the form says when you decide to be there, you gain a better understanding of the people and places associated with your beat. And then I again reiterate, you're going to observe 3 separate events. Each observation should be a different angle of your beat, and you'll use these observations along with your research and the interviews you conduct to write your 2 stories associated with your beat. I then go into another example, which I'm not going to do on this video, but if I were, my beat were the drinking culture at Miami, I would first talk to people and I'd try to figure out, okay, what 3 angles am I going to try to cover? And I list just 6 right there, but I could keep going in those angles. After those 6 that I list, I say out of all the ideas, I would decide on 3. And I'd want to choose angles that help readers see a complete picture of the issue. So that's all in that boldface part. The next step would be to match an observation to each of my story angles. What are the best times and places to see those angles in action? And again, in the next paragraph, I talk about how these don't need to be official events. The goal is just that you are showing readers that there's a problem, and Scout's barking a lot. That's my wife telling her to be quiet. If you look at those 3 angles, that eventually I whittled it down to 3. The binge drinking is an angle, that there are academic struggles due to drinking. Those are 2 problems. And then the third one is, how is Miami tackling the problem? Either how are students themselves trying to deal with this, or how is the school trying to tackle it? So see that structure again. I'm proving, or I'm trying to prove that there's an issue, and then is there a possible solution to the issue? So the next step is to find observations that match each angle. Number 1, that would be beat the clock. Number 2 would be various things that I might do for academic struggles. And then 3 would be how Miami is tackling the drinking problem. And I would choose maybe a late night Miami event. All right. Then I keep going about the different people that I would need to talk about those events. Okay. So I hope that's another example that provides clarity for this. So let's look at the form itself. So if you see the red font as you scroll down a little bit, it says use this form for your observations. Each observation is worth 50 points. You're graded on what you say and how you say it. So this is informal writing, but I'm still going to grade you on AP style items. So this is your chance to practice using Associated Press style correctly. So that means anything that we have covered in that AP style book list, and by the time your first observations due, we will have covered all of it. So that includes things like dangling modifiers, that includes punctuation, that includes how to write the time, All of that is fair game for me on these observations because I'm trying to get you to start to write in a more professional way. And so this document is one of those opportunities for you. But this is an informal document still where you're going to be writing at times in bulleted form. The first thing is who. You're going to describe the people at this event, and you're going to give specifics as much as you can about age and gender and clothing and what they're doing or saying, what group it is, if there is an affiliation with a group, and the number of people there. Details, details, details about those folks. Who and then what. What's happening. Again, very good details so we fully understand what's going on. If you were describing a night back in high school to us and you were saying, oh my gosh, we were rocking as we were driving, I don't know what that means. You would want to say we were listening to Justin Timberlake and we had the windows down and our arms out the windows laughing as we're driving down the road. That's a little better description for me than we were rocking out in the car one night. All right? When, you're just going to provide a very specific time and date using Associated Press style. Where, more details, very specifics on very good specific details on where this event is taking place, and then the why, which is why are you covering it? And for this is where you add your proof, which at this point should be even better proof about your particular angle, national, local stats. It could be the same ones that you're turning in Monday, and you're just reiterating that, yes, these are the ones I plan on using for support. The next part of this observation form are the interviews, where you're going to give me 3 people associated with this observation that you want to interview. Again, one person has to be an expert or an authority figure. So if I'm writing about Miami's football team and I'm covering one angle of the lack of interest, I'm not going to have 3 Miami students who talk about how they don't like to go to football games because it's more fun to drink. That's the 3 of the same person. I want a student who stays away because he or she would rather drink uptown. I want a student who goes to the games and says, they really are fun, but nobody gives them a chance. Maybe another student who doesn't want to go to the games for another reason. And I have to have somebody like an athletic director or coach or somebody who can talk about why people are staying away. I say in this first bulleted item underneath interviews that it's always best to interview people as the event is happening, since you're going to get the best quotes. When people are emotional, that's typically when they will say some pretty powerful things. However, there are times where it's better, or you might have to, or it's better to talk to people before or after an observation. If your topic is binge drinking, I really don't want you interviewing somebody who's had 8 trash cans at Brick Street. So tell me about binge drinking. That's not good. It's not good for that person and not good for you. So please don't do that. The second bulleted item goes through the variety, the 3 different people that I might interview if binge drinking were my topic. The third bulleted item discusses the questions that you need to ask related to the event and your beat, and you please make sure you spell their names correctly. If I check all names, and that's not a good thing if you don't spell their name correctly. So make sure. You will list the people that you've interviewed in this section, and you are going to provide each person with a clear label so I understand why you have who that person is. And then the second item is you are going to describe that person's relationship to that story. If you've interviewed somebody who's binge drinking, okay, why? Well, as I put in the example, maybe Sally's been arrested for public intoxication, or she's on academic probation, or whatever. What's her role in this story? Then I want to see 2 or 3 of the best quotes you got. I do not want you to copy and paste all of the quotes you got from Sally Smith. I want the quotes that you think, if you had to write the story tomorrow, that you would put in the story. If you don't have direct quotes, if you weren't able to get them, then you can paraphrase what Sally said. You can say that Sally talked about her academic struggles. That is at least I know what could be coming in your story. And then the last item you must include is the contact information, as much as you have, for each person you interview. The journalism department requires us to spot check sources. So I'll call or email random folks and ask them questions about whether they were interviewed, what it was like, just to make sure that you are completing that accurately. All right. The next part is photographs. Again, you need 2 pictures. They have to be action photos. Nobody smiling for the camera like that. Action pictures. You don't want the same people in both pictures or the same angles or the same theme. You need to get the basic information from the people who are in the picture, who they are. You need to get what they're doing, when they're doing it, why they're doing it, and where they're doing it. You also need to make sure you get that person's basic information, not only their name, but the year in school, their major, maybe hometown, things that you think might be pertinent for the cut line that you are going to write, which is the information that goes with the picture. Again, make sure you spell the names correctly. Third bullet item talks about that cut line, and that's the information that you will create. You're going to place the picture and the cut lines there. Again, we're going to talk more about photos and cut lines very soon to clarify my expectations for that. The video talks about shooting 20 seconds worth, and then after all these observations you're going to do, you'll put those videos together, and it should be about a minute, and you'll turn in that after the due date. All right, so that's what the observation form looks like. I have lots of examples from students, both good and bad, that I'm going to share with you as we go through this project, which will help clarify what you should be doing. Let's look at one of those. This is called observation form good example. Let's look at the good one. There's one called bad example. I'll save that one for class. But let's look at the observation form good example. Pause me if you need to. Again, this is in the files part of Canvas. All right, so Sally here wrote up this observation form. She told me her beat, which was mental health at Miami. This angle looked at a suicide prevention walk, an opportunity for people to become educated about suicide. So that was that was suicide was her angle here. So if you notice, this is about what I'm expecting on your observation form. If you're looking to get 50 out of 50, this is a pretty darn good observation form. If you look at the who, notice these are bulleted items. Again, I don't want you writing a story. I just need specifics that you would eventually put in a story. So she tells me about at least 200 people are at this event, and she provides a range of ages. She gives me specific numbers of how many teams were pre-registered and how many participants were pre-registered. She tells me not that they were just dressed in a variety of clothes, but she names the types of clothes that they were wearing. I lost my spot. Where am I? She then gives specific names of organizations. She gives dialogue. Hi, how are you? So she has a little bit of dialogue from that event. Matching T-shirts, and she names what they say on the T-shirts. Okay, so lots of information about who is there. Then there's the what, and that has what this event specifically is, details about how long it is. It's 2 miles. Again, more information about who is there. If you go down to the third to last bulleted item, she gives the name of the person, a mother of a Miami student who lost a battle with depression and obsessive compulsive disorder. Dean of Students Mike Kermey and Associate Director of Residence Life Eric Sorensen each talk. And then these beads are given out. She names the specific colors of them. She talks in that last bulleted item of how people are wearing them, of age of people who come up and get a gold one. So all of that is, I feel like I'm standing there beside her as all of this is happening. The when is is just the Associated Press style in the when, and that's perfect Associated Press style in time, day, month, and date. Then the where. She provides where exactly this is, the name of the park, what it looks like, the temperature. She says music coming from the speakers. I would have liked to have known maybe a particular song. And then she describes the registration tables and check-in. Why is this happening? She needs national and local stats. I don't need a ton of them. You don't need to prove it to me because you're not going to be putting a ton of this in your story. Just enough. If you look at that working poor story with Joseph Barrera, there are not millions of stats, and that was a long story. Yours is not going to be that long. So she gives me some very clear, pertinent information nationally from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, from this database, and then from USA Today. What she doesn't have that I see here that she should have are national statistics. I'm sorry, are Miami-related statistics, which she should have. So that's the one thing keeping her from pretty much a perfect observation form is she's missing Miami statistics. Then the interviews. Please take a look at how these are structured. She names the person. She says what this person is, the co-chair and assistant director. So good full name, and she gives the email address so I can reach out to Eric Sorensen if I need to. And then she provides 5 quotes, plenty of quotes. Then she has Nicholas Saxton. She names who he is and the why I should care about him because he participated in the walk with his fraternity. And she has 3 quotes from him. Then she gives me Amy Voorhees, who Amy Voorhees is and why Amy was interviewed. She has a brother who died by suicide. So, and 3 quotes from her. That's all I need. That's going to be plenty for the story. Then 2 pictures. Notice it's an action photo. Somebody's talking in the picture, and then there's a cut line underneath. That's exactly what a cut line should look like. We'll go into that in more detail. And then the second picture, there's an action picture. It's different from somebody standing behind a table. It's people actually doing the walk. That's a must picture. And the cut line that goes underneath that. That's it. That's a very, very strong observation form worth 50 points. So she got pretty darn close to getting full credit. And that's what I'm expecting. Again, the video won't happen until later. Okay. Now I want you to take you to one more document. And this is this is titled News Narrative Student Example 1. Keep the observation form good example handy. You're going to toggle back and forth between that observation form and this news narrative student example 1. Pause me if you need to as you find that document. All right, so you're looking at this student example. That picture should look very familiar to you. That's the same picture that she took in her observation. And if you look at that cut line, let me see how accurate, how close that cut line is to the final one. University students and members of the Oxford community walk down East Spring Street, and I'm looking at the story. Miami University students and members of the local Oxford community walk across campus. That's pretty close. So she changed some things. Notice I put some comments there. We'll go into the story in more detail, but I want you to see how this is going to translate. Once you get these observations, you are going to take the information from those 3 observations and you're going to plant them in your story. It'll make the writing process go very, very quickly because all of these observations are the pre-writing stage of the 4 stages of writing. And when you get all of this information, the writing stage, you're going to fly through it because you're just taking that information you got and you're putting it in the story. So notice the picture and the cut line are pretty close. Let me read the news narrative student example lead. Okay. The afternoon autumn sun warms more than 200 Miami University students and local community members assembled in the Oxford Memorial Park on Sunday, October 1st for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Out of the Darkness Walk. A middle-aged woman, Lynn Dalton, stands on the performance pavilion that spans one side of the grassy field. She calls for people to come forward to receive plastic bead necklaces that are color-coded to represent a personal connection to the cause. 2 blonde girls, no older than 8, walk up side by side to receive the gold necklaces that represent the loss of a parent. At least half the crowd lines up for purple, which signifies the loss of a relative or friend. Most bearing green, representing a personal struggle or attempt, are college students. All right, do you see that lead? And now go back to the good example of the observation form. And if you go to the details that she provides and you see the two blonde girls no older than 8, she sees that the green means personal struggle or suicide attempt, and most people wearing this, she's just taken all of this right out of this observation form and writing this in a narrative structure, because that's what this story is called. It's a news narrative story. Okay? Now notice what happens if you go to that news narrative student example. The very next paragraph is statistics. Just like in the Joseph Barrera story, you're moving from the narrative of a person or people to proving to readers that this is more than just one event at one school, in one town, in one state. This issue of suicide is a big deal nationally. And so she proves it there in that next paragraph. And then in the next paragraph, the prevalence of Miami students, now she's moving to her Miami stat, which she didn't include in that observation, but she did have that in a different observation. So she's using that statistic to go here. Okay? Notice the overall structure of this story. She is showing that there's an issue out there, and the issue is mental health, in this case, mental health / suicide. And then the rest of her story, by the end of her story, she's going to talk about what Miami is trying to do, or what maybe what Miami's or what Miami students or administration is trying to do to maybe quell the issue of mental health problems. Okay. All right, so I'm hoping that makes it really clear on what you need to do. If not, please make sure you get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to answer your questions as you move forward. The most successful students are talking to me all the time, all the time. They're emailing me, they're texting me, they're calling me, they're asking to meet with me, and they're going through their angles, the people they need to interview, what questions they should ask those people, where should they observe, what should I be doing now. I've met with probably 5 or 6 students in each of my 2 classes already, and those students I can already tell are on their way to doing very, very well with this, and they're going to write some pretty compelling stuff. So if you want to be one of those, let me help you. Reach out to me, and I'll be glad to do it. And I promise I won't play the guitar anymore. Okay. Have a good weekend. Bye.